I would like to welcome all of you who are joining this special webinar session. We have an amazing guest, a mentor to the entire technology industry, a champion of innovation, and very close involved person in the public policy. Today, I would like to welcome Dr. R Sonde. Welcome you, sir, to this special webinar by Government of Gujarat, Department of Higher and Technical Education, and iHub, which is the flagship agency to create innovation and startup ecosystem across academia in the Gujarat. We will also have along with us Shri Nagarajan, Commissioner of Higher Education, Government of Gujarat, and also the Honorary Executive Director of iHub, who doesn't miss a single session whenever we do to interact with our entrepreneurs and people who can influence entrepreneurs. Welcome you, sir, for joining us in the Sunday afternoon. And next 1 hour is going to be very exciting. I request everybody to put their seat belt tight, because we have two amazing people who are going to share their insights about how technology, policy, and innovations are interlinked and how they are going to make a difference in this country in the context of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Having said that, I would now like to formally introduce Dr. R Sonde to all of you who are listening through Facebook Live and other platforms on various web platforms of various universities and incubators in Gujarat. So Dr. Sonde is Executive Vice President and he's the Research, Technology and Innovation Center at Thermax Limited. He's also the member on the Board of Executive Council. He was formerly the scientist with Atomic Energy Commission of India and Executive Director of NTPC Limited. He is a fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering. He's a member on PK and CIA Committee on Power. He sits in the Committee of Power, so he's a powerful person. Specialist member on Energy and SSIP and DST. Chairperson of Task Force constituted by Niti Aayog on methanol. Anything you want to know about this domain, he is the person to go in the country. Member of Apex Committee on Methanol Economy. Member of CII Education Council, IPR Committee, and Sustainable Council. He is the member and head of IP Committee on Collaborative Development at CII. He also guides a lot of PhD students, obviously, who does good research at Pune University, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Dr. Sonde started his early career working as a scientist in the country's top research institution, namely the Bhabha Atomic Research Center. But he topped the entire batch of scientists and engineers and was awarded the Dr. Homi Bhabha Gold Medal. In the formative part of his career, he was deeply involved in nuclear energy research, developing technology on heavy water plants, while interfacing with various scientific, academic, and research institutions. He completed his PhD during his stint at Atomic Energy Commission, AEC, in the field of isotope separation simulation sciences. He was awarded for his contribution to the nuclear energy and science, a gold medal during the Golden Jubilee Award in the hands of the then Prime Minister. Subsequently, after 23 years of working in atomic energy, he was invited to join as the Executive Director in the country's premier power generator, National Thermal Power Corporation, NTPC. During his stint there, he created a new institution called Energy Technology, which is now created as NETRA to develop technologies in the thermal coal sector. In his current assignment as Executive Vice President and the member of the Executive Council of Thermax, his main thrust of activity is bringing innovation and enhanced knowledge in all the existing technologies within Thermax portfolio, while also involved in the developing new technology in the field of energy, environment, and water. He has been awarded Dr. M. Visvesvaraya Gold Medal for standing first in the University of Mysore, Dr. Homi Bhabha Gold Medal during the Golden Jubilee celebration of BARC in 2006, and his Dr. Doraiswamy Institute of Chemical Engineers Gold Medal for the Indian Nuclear Society, INS. So a lot of medals, a lot of awards, a lot of committees, and a lot of good work. That probably defines Dr. Sonde the best. This is the short bio that I could introduce Dr. Sonde to all of you. It is a privilege to have you, Dr. Sonde, today with us. Before I request you to start your presentation, I would request Nagarajan sir to share his initial comments.
Yeah, thank you, Hiranmay. This is going to be a very, very interesting session because we have always spoken about interdisciplinary approach and cross application of technology to solve the right problem, right technology to solve the right problem. And we have a person who has done this throughout his life. And he has started from BARC, went into atomic energy, and then NTPC, and then into private. He has crossed all the chasms that could exist in this in one's career. I think that rounds up the experience and personality that Dr. Sonde brings. So we need a lot of, we look forward to a lot of insights and experience sharing, because he works at the cutting edge of technology, innovation, and the societal and public policy problems. In fact, this is what we also want to convey to our viewers, especially our mentors who are the principals, lecturers, and professors in the government colleges, who are the mentors for all our student startups. We want you people to think and experience the vision and the impact that Dr. Sonde has done. We want you to be inspired. That is why we have brought him here, so that when you certain lessons that we can imbibe and implement in our implementation of the student startup and innovation policy, it will transform the ideas, and from idea to market, which is mind to market, which is the chasm that we are trying to cover in the startup space, especially in the student startup. This is going to be a critical thing. So I'm very happy to have him here. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We look forward to hearing you and share your ideas. And in the end of it, we'll take questions from the audience. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Nagarajan, for such a lovely and generous introduction. It was wonderful talking to you just before this session started, and I'm looking forward to a continued interaction with you. And same here, Hiranmay, my dear Hiranmay, when he asked me to come and do this, very difficult to say no to Hiranmay. I mean, the way that is compelling, he never takes no for an answer. He says, no, Dr. Sonde, you must come, because I've been doing this for so many times and I was not sure what is that is required. But when he said that there's going to be academicians, there are going to be students and young budding entrepreneurs, so I felt excited. So I hope next 45 minutes and then followed by a question and answer session, it will be a very interactive and a very kind of a two-way process in the question and answer session. So with this, I will start sharing my screen and begin my talk. So give me a minute to share my screen. So when Hiranmay told me that I must be talking to these young entrepreneurs, young students, and the mentors and the academics who are going to be mentoring the young entrepreneurs, so I was looking at what is that I must be really choosing a topic for the discussions, and I thought that I want to really tell that there's a huge amount of Indian intellect. I mean, when we actually look at the average IQ of Indian students, young boys, it is much above the global average. Though Indian average is 82, the average of our IQ of Indian students is more than 100, which is a huge kind of a golden IQ that all of you are possessing. And in spite of that, such a great intelligence in the minds of the students and young budding engineers. Why that intellect does not get translated to make India a great technology powerhouse has been haunting me for quite some time, because I'm globally connected. I work in the field of energy. I work in the field of environment. I work in the field of chemicals. I work in the field of water. So I've been looking at that when we are looking at some of these new technologies. What is it and why is it that our intellect, our IQ does not get translated to make India a great technology powerhouse? And in this particular talk, I'm going to be covering some of these aspects. What is that is lacking in our ecosystem, and what is it that is required by an organization like iHub to actually elevate ourselves to reach those global high platforms, to bring about technologies and products which are of global class, nothing less than that. And therefore, in this current situation, when there are new kind of a wave of technology, what we call ABCD, which is advanced manufacturing, what we call 3D printing. We are talking about bioengineering, which is becoming a part of the entire engineering course, because so much of a biology is flowing in physics and materials. The C part, which is the computer science and artificial intelligence, and of course, D, data science. So how can we actually amalgamate this new wave of ABCD into all the current technologies? And how is it that it could be a great opportunity for an budding and growing organization like iHub, as what Mr. Nagarajan mentioned? Now, if you look at in this picture, I thought that I have been for my 43 years of professional life after my graduation, I have been involved in developing really huge technologies. You can see that power plant. I mean, we did this, brought India to the highest level of nuclear technology to make India self-reliant in such a complex technology. And that too, when India was not as developed as today we are. India was maybe somewhere bottom GDP country, where today India is the number 5th, and in the PPP terms we are number 3. But in those times, 70s and 80s, when India was isolated by the global community because we dared to actually explode the nuclear bomb and made India's defense secured, and that was not liked by the developed countries, and I don't know to name those countries. It is called as London Club. You must look at that, what happened in the London Club when those London Club members of the London Club countries decided to isolate India from getting any kind of a sensitive technology. India took that chance, took that challenge, took that opportunity, and the kind of leadership that was there, and we were all budding engineers at that point in time. We actually decided and developed this technology for the nation to make India as self-reliant. So we were also at that time working with a poor infrastructure, a non-supportive ecosystem. But that a group of scientists and engineers in the BARC created this and made India a proud top technology nation. And today, if India is counted as one of the top nations, it is because of that kind of a work that we have taken. And I was fortunate to be part of that particular team in those days. So you can see on the left also there is this particular picture where very recently, I'm talking about just last year, we also developed one of the biggest technological challenge. Working with several laboratories and IITs in the country, developed this high temperature fuel cell. So I'm talking about what we did in the early part to the current one, where we have made India number 3 country in developing what we call air independent propulsion for our submarine program. Now it is in the open domain, and it was done in a purely collaborative manner by my company Thermax, working with the laboratories and IITs, and it was inaugurated and by none other than our president, when we actually dedicated the system. On the left side shows that given a challenge, Indians are capable of meeting that. You can see on the far right, we have developed this solar thermal technology of doing our own solar biomass, which was supported by Department of Science Technology as a 1 megawatt scale solar hybrid power plant. And even here you can see in last 2 months, sitting within a startup in Bangalore, the startup company, which is actually incubated by one DBT institution called a C-Camp in Bangalore, we developed this very new ventilator. I mean, working with some 6 scientists in that Inaxel company and 2 scientists from DBT and Thermax, we developed what we call CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure, with a non-invasive ventilator, which is, I just yesterday, you must say, if you have watched TV 18, they have said that both Maharashtra and Karnataka, the development that is done in 2 months, just 2 months time of developing this, which is very different than what is called conventional ventilators, which is available to at maybe 4 lakhs, or even at the lowest cost what Suzuki and Mahindra and some of the other public sectors are doing. We are developed with less than 4,000 rupees. So this is the power of what Indian brains can develop. But the only common caveat there in all my developments, from my nuclear energy to this kind of a ventilator, is one feature, my dear friends, my dear young students, is collaboration. I think the time has come when we develop all these things by using tremendous amount of intellect available, but we cannot work in a divided intellect manner. Unfortunately, what is happening today in our country is that there is pockets of excellence, But these pockets of excellence remain as pockets and they are not channelized. They need to be brought together. Only when you bring this multiple talent, multiple IQs, multiple brains, they come together, then only we can actually develop these high technology areas and ride on the top of ABCD. So my first mantra that I'm going to be telling all of you is that we need to have this very high level of collaboration. I'm glad when Mr. Nagarajan and Hiranmay confessed with me, he said, this is what we want to do. This is the way that we need to take our development and not remain in a divided, isolated, in a siloed manner, but we'll work it out. And that's a music to my ears. I would like to tell you what is my model for collaboration. I call it as a triple helix model, and that is something which I've explained in my subsequent slides. I think today, and Hiranmay again made a reference to this Atmanirbhar, and I hope all of you realize it's a great initiative by none other than such a dynamic leadership of our loving Prime Minister. But when we mean Atmanirbhar, it does not mean isolation, but using interdependence to maintain self-reliance for global good. So this particular thing requires a huge mindset. I'm a little worried when people in the name of Atmanirbhar should not become more isolated. Atmanirbhar is never means it is self. It is kind of a, yes, you want to be independent, you want to be self-reliant, but the mechanism of doing Atmanirbhar is by connecting. That is number one. It's a very critical, important what our Honorable Prime Minister also spoke yesterday from the ramparts of Red Fort, and he said that 24 times, bringing importance of Atmanirbhar. But he also said, I think it is greatness of, that shows the level of leadership that he's offering when he said, along with Atmanirbhar comes this whole aspect about how are you interdependent in this complex world. So when he said that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Atmanirbhar and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam there is no contradiction. It is one and the same. And few days back, when he was unleashing the new education policy, he also talked about how we should allow the young students, young girls, young boys to change their thinking from what to think to how to think. It's a great change. I don't know the impact of what he said, that through a NEP, we want to make a basic change in the thinking process. Is a huge realization, I'm sure, to all of you who are involved into this. As to that, we have assumed all this time, and we are tutoring our students what to think, because we feel that we have been given all the knowledge to tell the students what to think. I was talking to Nagarajan just a few minutes before. I said today's students are far smarter than many of us in our times. They know many things because of the access and their evolved brain capacity. So we don't have to tell them what to think. What we can support is how to think. And from that how to think, the questions like why something should work like this is an important question, my dear friends. You need to ask why things work the way they do. Is it the only way of doing the things? Are there many alternate ways of doing the things? So it is important that getting from a know-how, which is what we were dependent post-independence, we need to move from know-how to know why things work like this. And that is where, when you understand know why, and when you ask those why questions, then all things show how changes to show why it should work like this. And this is what is important. Successful enterprises are those who have gone through this cycle. What to do is something which is following somebody else. How to do is also something following somebody else. But when you ask why to do, and when you ask those questions, then you know that you are actually challenging many fundamental principles in this particular thing. So going further from that know how to know why, and know why means developing technology leadership, because technology answers all the questions of why is something working. So the new technologies are transforming sector from agriculture to automobiles. Whatever we studied in 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, my dear friends, though the fundamental principles of physics, chemistry, biology have remained same, but the applications of them have undergone a huge challenge, a huge transformation. And hence, now is a time, a huge opportunity to all of you as new age entrepreneurs. And I cannot, I only, if I'm jealous of all of you, is that I feel I should have been younger by 40 years so that I could have been a part of this exciting journey that all of you are now experiencing. Don't even waste a moment on this. And I feel our iHub can provide the right platform to go into this. Now, having said this, so I have made this statement that we have to change our thinking process. We need to be questioning in our mind. We need to have that inquisition in our mind. We need to have curiosity in mind. We should have skepticism in our mind. Our way of looking at things should be very different, and Indians can do it. The question that still haunts me, my dear friends, is why we scored poorly on global indices. So you may say, Dr. Sonde, you talked about so much of a thing, but why is it that there are no Nobel laureates from Indian university system? Why there are no Googles and Apples and trillion-dollar enterprises in this country? Why are we faring at 73rd place out of 74 countries in the PISA ranking? Why do Indian cars or Indian technology products are not running in the foreign countries? Why no Indian universities are under top 100? Why is it that 1/6 of the global humanity is not able to win the more, medals in Olympics? Why is it that Indians, when they go abroad, and I don't want to name them, you are seeing the pictures, and there are unknown millions of them doing work, beautiful work there. If they are doing it, if they are doing such a huge work, and the same, maybe there are 10 times brilliant people than all these Sundar Pichais and Krishnans and Satya Nadellas are available, existing in India. We should allow these people to go, but for a one Satya Nadella, there may be 100 Satya Nadellas are there in India. Why are they not able to create this kind of a huge enterprise? And this is a question that is always there in my mind, and I will try to attempt to answer this. Something, my dear friends, is lacking in our innovation ecosystem, and if we are able to crack that something, and I will attempt to do that in next 30 minutes, probably my feeling is that we can create this huge ecosystem, huge entrepreneurship, huge businesses, big corporations, and as Prime Minister is dreaming of a $5 trillion economy, I feel that we can surpass that $5 trillion economy in next 4 years. When some economists question why India can't become $5 trillion economy, I feel like laughing at them. If you don't know, technology doesn't work like economics, and technology works always in an exponential manner. So to assume that only from a current 8%, India can reach only $3.2 trillion economy is an ignorant conclusion, not understanding the power of technology. Power of technology, my dear friends, has shown all over the world its capacity to lift any economy from A to 10A, from X to 100X. And therefore, I still feel that it is eminently doable that we can meet the grand dream of our Honorable Prime Minister to reach this $5 trillion economy. And it is our duty, of all of our duty who are in this particular webinar, to ensure that we not only reach, we surpass $5 trillion economy and prove every doubting Thomases or whatever that you want to call them wrong by showing that the power of technology is there to meet this demand of $5 trillion economy. My dear friends, on the same line, I get goosebumps when I realize the miraculous wisdom existing in our culture for millennia. This is the wisdom, I'm convinced, exists in our DNA, and we need to rekindle this. I mean, when you know that that Pythagoras invented pi in 700 BC, and it was done 2000 years back. The formula of pi was given by Aryabhata. The Budhayana talking about Pythagoras theorem, pi, the unveiling that earth is not static, it is spherical, it is globular, and it is moving. Bhugol and Jagat, Gati, shows that Indian sages, wise men had understanding far superior to the later on scientists who have come from Greek and Europe and the developed world. So if I'm convinced that if we measure IQ as per Mensa, all these sages might have an IQ more than Einstein. Einstein's IQ was 168, and I'm sure all of them must have had this, as there were a large number of them, and it was passed as a Guru Shishya Parampara. I'm sure that we would have had probably 4,000 years back, 2,000 years back, 1,000 years back, large number of intellectual people. Einstein, great person, I admire because I was working for atomic energy. And if you talk about the 6 biggest discoveries, the atomic energy is one of the biggest discovery of humankind. That discovery which changed a lot of fundamentals. Now, Einstein is given that credit of discovery of E equals mc squared and photoelectric effect. And I'm sure I consider him as one of the person who had tremendous amount of capability to visualize, not even doing experiments when the experiment just proved what he hypothesized. And similarly, I'm sure there were many Einsteins who were there in this particular culture who has created and were proven by the power of mathematics of doing all these things. And when you see this same mathematics, art, culture, science, technology blended in every form of living. And today Stanford, MIT says that what is essential as entrepreneurship is team. Science, engineering, technology, arts, and mathematics. And all these 5 branches were in full abundance in the medieval and historical India. You take city planning in Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, literature, art. I mean, you look at the intricate way this is done. It cannot be done unless you understand mathematics of doing those musical pillars. When you go to Meenakshi temple, or you go to Tanjore temple, or you go to any one of our architecture, the amount of science, engineering, and mathematics which has come is amazing. And that could not have come what is now considered as the way forward in artificial intelligence. And all these students of science are told that if you don't learn STEAM, or they call STEM or STEAM, where arts is also a part, you cannot take anyone of your nation. And I would like to proudly say that we had all these things. And if you are able to only tap to what is true to this country, probably we can surpass and become a true torchbearer of the leading nation, not only for India. And I would like to make this very clear for the global good. I would repeat again, I mean, absolutely, this is for Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and I don't want to repeat it, but this is never talked from a very narrow mindset of what it is. But India has the capability under this tremendous challenge of climate change, under tremendous challenge of this database hacking that can destroy countries. I mean, the next world war will not happen in a conventional weapon-based system. It'll happen to this data hacking and the data science, which is like the nuclear energy was created to unleash an infinite of energy to sustain humanity, which was perverted into a weapon-based nuclear energy. Similarly, data science will also happen that way. But India and its culture and its wisdom can transform it. And when you look at India was such a leading country with so much of a contribution of its culture, its trade, its knowledge to the world, became very, very small, insignificant country. And that is, you know what it is. I don't want to go to the 300 years of this British colonization and the pillage. There is no other word, as William Dalrymple talks about in the Anarchy. This is what that 300 years of colonization has happened. And unfortunately, we seem to have continued some part of it, even post-independence, doubting our own self-confidence and depending on the Western world to support us. And therefore, Indian journey in science and technology, though impressive, did not strive to create an innovative economy. I've studied that, and when we do this, I still felt, whether it's education, whether it is setting up the engineering colleges, whether it is setting up the industries, whether it is building the infrastructure, whether it's building any one of the enterprise, India did not go back to what is our capabilities, but because we were at a certain point in history, we thought at that point in time, the best way is to import some technologies, depend either on A block or B block. I don't want to say what is that block, the right block or left block, without understanding that India could have developed all of it on a very strong, solid foundation of our own country. And therefore, with all these great things, and when you realize that today's reality, that we are still 129th country in a Human Development Index. So my dear friends, if one thing that we need to realize, that somewhere we have made enormous kind of a mistake or error in taking our science and technology and our enterprise, and therefore what has been our true position, where India should have been in the luminary of all the nations, we are struggling to reach that. But I request you, don't accept this fait accompli or this status quo. I think we need to move on, because we are necessary, because end of the day, if Germany is such a country after Second World War, Germany was as bad as India in terms of its economy. And in no less than 30 years, it grew to be one of the top world's engineering-based country with developing world-class technologies because of the strength of its people and their intelligence. And if I talk about a 18 million population having 5% as an intellect of 100, which create this, is a 0.4 million. And in India, when I see that, our actual people with above 100 IQ will be easily about maybe 300 million people. And it's a huge number. If only we could have tapped, I mean, this recent study done by Mensa, the world's largest prestigious IQ, has found out that a common thread between a daily laborer, son of a rickshaw driver, young boy who lives in the streets, and that IQ was enormous, which you would not find even in the developed countries. So somewhere, if you don't channelize that IQ, and it goes into a negative manner because of various conditioning of the society, we actually lose this particular thing. So though India started on a wrong foot because of its dependence on Western technology, but we had a huge pockets of achievements of par excellence. I mean, I could tell you this story of Subhash Mukhopadhyay, who was the first test tube baby creator. He should have won truly. And when he created this Dolly Agarwal, Bela Agarwal, as one of the first globes, Earth's first test tube baby, he was ridiculed by his own community, had to commit a suicide, whereas 60 days later, the actual person from UK won the award. Shows that how Indian talent was suppressed by our own societal systems because of our so-called, whatever we call it as kind of a working in isolation or a crab mentality. Even in simple thing like pumps, when you wanted to have the groundwater pump to be pumped through this particular bore well, I mean, the Sholapur model is the model which is called as Mark II pumps, developed in a city which is not very far from where I'm in Pune, which is called as Sholapur pumps globally, done by 2 farmers. So this is one thing which becomes one of the best development. And you know, Abdul Kalam, what he has done. There's one more story where now today, when you say that the bioengineering or sequencing or genetic mapping is one of the most important tool in the biomimetics in various aspects of identifying your negative kind of a thing. You know that biomimetics, genetic sequencing, understanding the human body by sequencing so that you can predict what kind of changes that can happen in his body in 20 years and 30 years, whether he now propagated by Israel Jewish scientists, was done in 1970s by Dr. Lalji Singh. So what I'm saying is that many of these developments, whether it's in superconductivity, whether it is in magnetism, whether it's in the optics, whether it's in physics, whether it's in biology, enormous work was done, but India could not bring top-class products to the globe. My own personal experience, as I said in my opening remark, that nuclear energy, India was denied nuclear energy. But the great leadership, we are working with Vikram Sarabhai, and we are working with Raja Ramannas and Setanas, who actually helped us out. So India could go ahead. Today, if global nations, whether it's our northern neighbor or whoever it is scared of this country, is because we are very strong on these defending our country's borders. And that happened because of our tremendous amount of trust in spite of the denial of this technology. So India is a self-reliant in complex technology of nuclear, space missiles, because high technologies were denied to us. And we decided that if it is denied, if you push us with our back to the wall, we will come back stronger. Probably it didn't happen in fertilizers. It didn't happen in automobiles. It didn't happen in refineries. It didn't happen in many other technologies where we were lured by the so-called Western countries that they'll give us technology, and we fell into the trap. And therefore, today we are actually not able to take Indian technologies, Indian-made cars, Indian-made phones all over the world. I'm particularly lucky to have worked under iconic leadership, and that is what matters for budding engineers and entrepreneurs. Our motivation in 70s and 80s was then to make India self-reliant. My dear friends, I want you to pause for a minute and ask that question to you. What should be your motivation of young Indian? What is that each one of you who are into this or whom you are going to be associating? If you ask me what's your motivation, my answer is make India super again. India as #1 nation in the world is what is important, because we have got 3rd largest science and technology human resource, and we are spending enough R&D today. Don't tell me, don't give me, in fact, I've said it to all IITs and various engineering institutions. Today, India is spending liberally in R&D. Only place where we are having a problem that we are not able to convert this R&D or focusing that R&D into commercial pathway. So India is missing miserably is in this translational of R&D into commerce. So unless, and I'm very glad when Hiranmay told me, Kishan, we are bringing this, Nagarajan is telling me, and that's important. Bring, end of the day, even if you are starting something, the commercial consultant. I'm talking to a crowd from Gujarat who understands technology, who understand the importance of technology in a commercial way. I want you people to be the torchbearer for this country, that R&D for R&D's sake, spending some money because somebody has done in some Western part of the world should not be the way that R&D should be supported. I've been talking to a lot of policymakers in science and technology that curiosity-led R&D is all right, but what is required is a focused, goal-driven R&D to commercial pathways. So that is what is required. India today, I hope, with the NEP and tremendous thrust on the startup culture, will make that change in this particular thing. So the operating word, my dear friends, is move to the applied, pure applied research, not pure fundamental research, but pure applied research. And that's why we talk about these 4 quadrants where, of course, one is the fundamental research. The research purpose could be always to explore nature, to understand what it is. And there are huge experiments like the CERN experiments is conducted when India is a part to understand when did this Big Bang happen. And 13.3 billion years, and knowing that how it happened, what kind of a place energy got transformed into material is an important question to be addressed. But more important is when you address that question, are you going to create something which is going to be actually converting that fundamental research into certain knowledge, certain product, certain technology, certain relevance to the society. And that is critical for India today. So we call it the Pasteur quadrant, where your research may be absolutely of the highest order, but its conversion to a product like now, Pasteur actually invented vaccine. I mean, you know that Jenner, Pasteur, the whole exciting field. And today when we feel so confident that we will overcome Corona, it is because we know that 2 months, 3 months, we'll get a vaccine. And that will provide a shield to us. So the development of this vaccine is such a fundamental understanding about the human immunology, T cells, B cells, and you know all the pathways. I'm sure the students who are coming from the life sciences would understand the exciting journey of vaccine. And Pasteur did that, and he converted that into a great enterprise. Okay, that is something which is an aspirational one. But look at Edison. Edison's research was not a huge fundamental research, but his thrust was, how do I take this research and create a huge business or create an empire? General Electric, created by Edison, became $250 billion company in less than 40 years. In those days, I mean, today you can say that, oh, we have created $1 trillion, Google became $2 trillion, Apple became $2 trillion, yesterday $2,000 million. But in those days, GE, when he created that incandescent bulb, was not a great discovery. It was okay, but he had a clear mind. And that is the mindset I want all of you to be focusing on, that whatever you do, you have to be very clear that you are first on the road, you are top of the world, you have protected yourself, and your invention has to be converted into creation of wealth. If that equation is not running in your mind, your invention, your so-called startup, your any development will have limited this thing. So if you have understood, I am now going to be talking a few slides on what is that we need to be doing. How do we create innovation? How do we create these new incubators? How do you break from the past? Because very often this past pulls you back, even in the so-called WhatsApp, in the startup ecosystem, and create a beautiful future. So number one formula that my dear friends, do not go away from science to creation of wealth. As I showed here, 6 boxes, unless your product, whatever you're developing, or services, whatever you are offering, or whatever technology that you are developing, anything that you are doing in a domain of startup or incubator, you should ask whether it is a part of that STEM culture. There has to be science, there has to be technology, there has to be product, there has to be market, and that would create business, and that would create wealth, which has to go back to science. And this particular virtuous cycle is not happening in India, because we are not starting, whether it is in the industry. I have worked in the industry, as Mr. Nagarajan mentioned, and my singular contribution to the industry is that unless industry understands that they need to bring the science back and they can't perennially depend on an imported technology. Unfortunately, 90% of Indian so-called large sector are dependent on imported technology, and I've been struggling. I said, in nuclear energy, we did it, and in such a high technology, we could develop our technology, whether it is in the steel, cement, or textiles, or pharmaceuticals, or chemicals. We don't have to depend on any other country. And that can be done only when you bring science back into its fold. The science, technology, product, creation of market. And therefore, that has to start from the teaching pedagogy, what Hiranmay has been talking to me last 2 weeks. And I said, Hiranmay, we need to understand that what is that, how to think theory of our Honorable Prime Minister. If Pythagoras' theorem is taught to us, our students should understand what is the application of Pythagoras theorem to his day-to-day life. If I'm saying a plus b whole squared is da 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 da, a squared plus squared plus 2ab, I should understand where am I going to be using this particular thing in my product. So if you do not divorce or dichotomize your learning in the engineering college to the work you are doing it, then I think it will be a poor reflection of what we think and what we do are not correlated, and that's not the way. So my request is that whatever incubator that you're developing, it has to be very strong on this foundation of science and technology. Number two, and this is what I said in my opening slide also, that let us bring back golden triangle into our society. My dear friends, I've studied why developed nations post-industrial revolution and renaissance became such a huge, wealthy technologies countries with a human development index and pushed India to a lowly 128th position. If you take 1 to first 20 countries, all of them are industrially developed nations. And if you study them, it is fairly clear that they realize that developing from science to technology to product to business, you need collaborations. You cannot do by all yourself. And they created this golden triangle. That means state, that is the government or the funding agencies, will support in a collaborative manner between academia and research institutions and industry. And finally, industry will take this development for commercialization. And through that commercialization, the federal government get the money back in the form of taxation. And that virtuous cycle, my dear friend, is so easy to understand. It is so easy to understand. And the way the great institutions like Oxford, MIT, Hamburg, Fraunhofer, you name them, they became great because they were the beneficiaries of this golden triangle, because golden triangle was in full bloom in these countries through their industrial revolution and renaissance moment. And once it becomes a part of any nation, I know I must have visited all these countries several times. I know that on an average, when we meet people there, their average understanding is so poor. I mean, when I go to my bhajiwala, if you buy 10 things, 1/4 kg, one half kilo, and he, within, even before I could understand, he will give me this mathematics, the Shakuntala Devi kind of a stuff in less than 1 minute, which will take. And the same thing when I used to be there outside and check, when I go to a hotel and try to solve the bill, and if there is 52, and if I give him $100 and $2 more, I mean, they don't understand. Why are you giving me $2? $100 is less than $52. They feel that I don't know the mathematics. Why I'm giving additional $2? Not realizing that I'm saying that if you give me $102, you can give me $50. This simple, I would say, cognitive process is not there. And when I see they are living a life with 10 times more income, an ordinary fellow who is putting 1/10 of my effort, I find that somewhere they have got it right. And if I analyze what they got it right, which is being now shared by all the other people who take very limited interest in all these things, is because of this golden triangle. And number 3, fast forward startup culture. When you say academia and industry, again, there's a huge amount of mistrust in India. My dear friends, I will not go to that mistrust. I've said this in many fora. You can look at my YouTubes where I said, where even government is now realizing in this COVID, when you talk about ventilators or whether you talk about vaccines, yes, we need federal competitive collaboration. I mean, yesterday I was so surprised with the statement what PM said. He said what India needs is not only collaboration, but a competitive collaboration. And he added federal competitive collaboration. I said, I must make this mention. Well, what he said, federal competitive collaboration is in this golden triangle. And I'm sure that, I mean, that's what the great leadership we have, and therefore I really feel that industry must collaborate with academia, and that transfer of the knowledge from one to other, I call it as a TRL transfers. And this is, again, I'm not doing it right now, but leaving this thought with you in this thing. So we need very strong innovation ecosystem. We need to have this, what I'm going to spending time on, more from less philosophy, and collaborate. So if you feel penicillin is a discovery, invention is the light bulb, innovation is the next thing, my dear friends. So you must understand what is this innovation means. Innovation is not discovery. Innovation is not invention. Innovation is creation of a wealth. It is actually translation of the inventions or discoveries into a great commercial product. And that is where the innovation is important. And when you do an innovation, innovative way of thinking, you have to bring that back, what our Prime Minister said, you have to change your thinking process. You have to understand how to think, because you are not in a conventional mode. When you want to be innovative, you have to be out of box thinking. You have to have a curiosity mind. You have to have an inquisitive mind. You have to have a mind which is always skeptical, which does not accept anything which is told to you, including what today Dr. Sonde is saying. You keep that doubt in your mind. I mean, you know this, a story of manometer where Rutherford, one of the basic atomic theory model developer, was a professor at Oxford, and he was asked this question that if I give you a manometer, I mean, he asked a question to his student, how will you measure the height of a building? And that student went on to give methods of measuring the height to a ridiculous amount. He said that I will take the manometer to the top of the building, tie a rope, and then measure the length of the rope. He said, okay, this is a good answer, but can you tell me better answer? He said, I will drop the manometer and throw it on the ground, find out the time and measure the time, and then half 80 squared, I will tell you what is the length of the building. Okay, this is all right. But any other way manometer can be measured? He said, I will go to in the sunny day and take the mirror, I mean, take the shadow of this and measure that shadow and take a triangle and then measure the height of the building. So he went on giving those answers of what manometer, to the extent of saying, I will give the manometer to the manager of the building facility complex and give him, like, you know, saying kind of a gift to him, and from him I will get the answer of the height of the building, rather than saying that I will use this to measure the pressure and from that rho g h I will measure height. And that person, the student, was none other than a great physicist. So later on, in a funny thing, he said, I knew the answer, but I wanted to say that I don't want to, when I look at a manometer, I don't want to brand it as manometer is only to measure height. So it is an equipment which I can use it. So there are many examples which I would have a separate test. I can do it with you to understand how do you innovate. Innovation is not invention. You don't have to invent anything, but you have to choose the best pathway for making any business profitable. So how to do it, my dear friends, is the mantra, my next slide, which is 5 mantras. So innovation, if you understand from my previous slides, innovation, mantra for innovation is idea velocity. You have to increase the idea velocity. You have to create climate for experimentation. You have to battle with failure philosophy. In India, failure is considered as a stigma. I think we should overcome that stigma. The problem in India, we are becoming mediocre because everybody wants to be not failing. And therefore, we get into this difficulty. Increase the batting average by more from, this is a beautiful concept that I'm going to be talking, more from less, and iterate business model. This more from less methodology is exactly what an innovator has to look at it, because in this philosophy is embedded what we call efficiency of how do you convert the numerator by denominator, make it 100%. And this is a hugely, I would say, scientific theory. But if you are able to apply the scientific theory in your business, in your startup, every action, if you apply this, and then you can iterate a business model, I'm sure if you apply these 5 criteria, in my view, and I've done it when I'm doing many of these things, you cannot fail in terms of final outcome. You may have intermediate challenges, you may have intermediate tremendous setbacks, but end of the day, you will really reach this. So this is known as now 2-spin theory. I mean, I'm writing a book on this 2-spin theory, very important thing. I'm in Facebook where this current thing is being shown live. Said this, the idea happened on September 2003. Mark Zuckerberg on there was some concept. It became an idea in November 2003. The idea started spinning, and then you started working demonstration. And this is where I'm telling all my Indian innovators, don't kind of procrastinate in only idea, because we are taking enormous time. Our academicians, sorry, there are a lot of academicians, sirs, it is not to kind of reflect, but many times, I mean, I'm seeing it, people are agreeing with me that we remain in iterating it out, our own ideas, want to improve it so much on paper. I said idea may not be mature, but can we prove it? Can we set up a pilot scale? Can we put a 3D model? Can we set up some breadboard model? Can we set up some demonstration units? So it is important that 2 wheels, that means an idea wheel, which is intellectual, modeling, analytical process, and a demonstration model run parallelly. Okay, so this is a new theory. Usually people who are understanding the process run this in a sequential manner, one after the other. That is what we call TRL levels. I have written in my book, we need to break that particular sequential model. We need to run several wheels parallel, and this wheel running, and I've done that. I will give you an example how I've done it, and you will, I mean, I feel vindicated that it happened. The conventional way of doing is modified to making it in this manner, and therefore it is important that when you get a itch and idea, we need to be quickly getting in building the demonstration unit. Experimentation, I think there is no substitute to experimentation. Without go to anybody, either an angel or a venture or to anybody, unless you have done your experimentation. Experimentation, you have seen that many times it will fail, you may exit, or it may give you a new idea. I mean, you must have seen this post-it notes. It was a failed idea because the adhesive was not sticking, and when it was presented to the board, I think the person who was doing was Dibbler, Donald Dibbler was doing it, and when they said, Dibbler, this is a wonderful idea, because if the adhesive is not sticking, neither it is giving this resin is very important for us post-it, and 3M created today at least $5.8 billion from a failed idea. My dear friends, there are number of legends where failed idea became more successful than the idea that you have started beginning with. So there is no substitute to go for this kind of a experimentation. Have a high trial rate. Do not do only one experiment and say it right. I mean, today when you are saying vaccine trials and when you go for phase 2 and phase 3, and we want to go, this is the only thing, phase 3. I think I'm great that ICMR or even the Oxford, which is happening in my own city, lot of experimentation you have to do to see the efficacy. Because if you do a high rate, the data science says you can fail fast, you can learn fast. And last thing, can you do the last experiment first? So are you intuitive enough? And that intuition is very, very important. As we talk about innovation, we talk about incubation, but intuitiveness is another, my dear friend, is a huge treasure given by the creator. I'm not saying creator in the form of any kind of an entity. Whoever is created this has given you a plenty of this intuition, and that intuition is extremely important. It is a gift to you. Many times we lose that gift to our logical reasoning, something which can go beyond the logical reasoning, which is a huge God's gift. If you are able to understand the process, then you will be able to do the last experiment, because then you start wondering, I should have done this experiment first. Why it did not strike to me is because you have not been intuitive enough. Avoid failure fallacy, my dear friends. Please, I'm talking the mentors who are there in this. Hello, I'm not saying that you celebrate failures, but ensure that in the failure lies huge amount of lessons. So analyze the failures, avoid the failure fallacy, increase the batting average, and that's where I'm bringing this more from less. So my dear friends, if you understand here, I'm taking a minute to discuss this, that if you actually understand that every device that you are building, every system that you are developing, there's a certain material cost which goes into that. And that material, let's say you're putting steel, or you're putting carbon, or you're putting anything in developing a device for a water treatment, or a solar PV, or a water pumping, or a measurement of the this one sensors. So for every material, because ultimately it's the material which delivers a value proposition. So all the Western world have gone on to this theory that if you put more material, you can get a better value proposition. So therefore, the big cars, the big air conditioners, you put bigger machine, you get more output from that. It's a very simplistic way of looking at it. What we are proposing, and there's a huge scientific theory that can you, while putting material, can you provide and get higher output from lesser material, is the essence of innovation. This is known as the efficiency, or a second law of thermodynamics track. That means if you say output is the numerator, input is the denominator, how for a given input you can increase the output almost to make it 100%, is the way a sustainable world will move. When we talk about all this global warming and climate change and the circular economy and sustainable, and that's where huge amount of innovation happen. The fundamental premise of this is the more from less, or how to get extra thing given the same material. And this is where we need to, the green quadrant is where we need to thrust all our developments and put it to its verification. There is, of course, less from more, which is what is known as hedonistic, which is something which is absolutely a wasted thing. And then there is less from less, which is called a jugaad. I think many times people appreciate and say that jugaad is Indian way of innovation. I refuse to agree that, because jugaad is less from less, and there's a huge problem of using jugaad as an innovation, because it will not give you the desired results. Jugaad, one compromise that will be done in jugaad is on the safety and reliability of the system. It may perform, it may look to be performing, but it will end of the day fail. And therefore, my request to all of you, with folded hands, don't go after doing any jugaad and praise yourself that I managed to do something, unless it is subjected to a thorough scientific principles of development. I would not say that. There are many examples, more from, and when today this thought came from Elon Musk, that when the rockets are going and you are doing it and you cannot recover them, and that's what everybody is doing, can I get that SpaceX back into the Earth's orbit and get it back onto this? I salute this person who could think. Even NASA could not think. None of the space scientists could think. He said he is simply a physicist. He was not a space scientist. Asked that question, had the guts and gumption to ask that question. And today he has developed a reusable rocket at 1/10 cost. That means if you are able to improve the performance by 10 times and bring down the cost by 10 times, you have a double impact. You have increased the numerator by 10 times. You have decreased the denominator by 10 times. You have a twofold increase in your performance parameter of your device. So, my dear friends, whenever you are developing or asking yourself that I've got a great product, you ask this question, does it satisfy this simple equation? And the answer what you get will be obvious to you. in many ways. As I said, the development of a Mark II pump or whatever that we have done in genetic sequencing or Subhash Mukhopadhyay's test tube baby with a limited resources, we could deliver this. Today, the prosthetic foot leg for $28 as compared to 20,000 prosthetic feet indicates the power of this human brain, because when you start human intellect to these kind of a thing, that is where I have been focusing on the capability of Indian brain, because we have got enough and more IQ. And if you bring that intuition in your IQ, Arvind Eye Care Center, when Lady Hilton was here, Hillary Clinton was here, I mean, she realized that Arvind Eye Care is doing a laser LASIK surgery at just $2, and the same thing in Washington costs about $800, and $2 was delivering a better performance. That is what she felt, that at $2 with the 800 with no compromise to safety. In fact, it is better option, is the essence of what I'm talking about. So I did this. In fact, this development of our fuel cell, I thoroughly applied this principles of rooted in science, principles of rooted in collaboration, principles of rooted more from less, principles of doing scientific experiments. My dear friends, I use this. I could, I mean, again, it would require another couple of hours for me to explain this. What the global nation, like I can tell you, BASF took 26 years. We just did it in 2 years. And my dear friends, it is a tremendous satisfaction. It is not an iota of kind of an addition that I've done. It is the tremendous satisfaction and recognition of the Indian intellect if they are put to this kind of a challenging assignment. And all of you are, I put it in the same way, we can do it. We can deliver world-class product or a better than world-class product, because Indian products, when they're world-class, they'll be definitely less expensive, and therefore their acceptability to the world as a sustainable development will be a huge thing. So it developed 56 scientists, 18 PhDs, 12 industries, funding. So it was having, in fact, I want to show this model as the way forward for all our people involved in the government, policymaker, funding agencies, collaborating institutions, academic institutions, industries, how we should actually structure those programs which will make it successful. Again, similarly, in 2 months, we created this particular invasive ventilator, non-invasive ventilator. Again, my dear friends, I will not go there, because if I go there again, it'll be a huge kind of an explanation to you. How do you bring this kind of a thing? How do you bring people together? How do you put them, everybody, to look at the same goal? How do you ensure that everybody gets the credit? How do you ensure that everybody feels satisfied and motivated that we are doing something which is great, which is beyond the purpose what you're doing it for your daily living? If there's a higher purpose that you're saying it for the society and for a crisis that society is facing, then it happens like that Paulo Coelho's, the whole universe conspires to realize your dreams. And that's a very important thing, that you need to be doing this. New wave technology. So henceforth, whatever you are going to be doing, whether it's in the health, agriculture, water, climate change, energy, food and beverage, I'm working on this. Please, my dear friends, post-COVID, when the world will go to a new norm, I don't know, there are two theories. Some people saying that 1 year from now, people will forget. And second theory, people are saying, no, I think world has learned a big lesson. And I think it will not go back to normal. There will be a fundamental change. People have become more compassionate. People have realized that unsustainable way will not take us anywhere. There's a blessing in disguise in this lockdown. People have realized many things. I would have shared my own experience, but I'm not doing that. Hiranmay talked about my growing a beard as an external appearance, but there's a more change internally that is happening, and he knows he's privy to some of the decisions that I've taken, because I feel excited by the young people. This is a huge, huge opportunity, whether it's a new norm or a mixture of a new norm to an old norm. These all sectors, health sector, agriculture sector, water sector, climate change sector, CO2 capture sector, energy sector, food and beverages are going to be phenomenally different. And each one of them will offer you tons of new enterprise to be created. My only people, keep your antennas open. I know this unique solar power corridors increase the agricultural prosperity. From 1 acre, how can I get 4 lakhs of rupees? And therefore, how do you combine the food, fodder, and energy into one way is where we are developing this. Again, I'm not getting into the details. I'm just bringing this because I'm actively involved in working on this. I'm working on how do we enhance the productivity by using modern tools, by improving your cold storage, by improving your water pumping, by building a lot of these new sensors, and then using all your agro residue to convert that back into bio-SNG, where Satat program is giving. And my dear friends, each one of you can tap into these developments. There are many, many things to be done. There are, as I said, only regret for me that I should have been younger by so many years, because today is a time where government is thinking proactively, and there's an enterprise which is available. There are funding which is available. It is only that we need ideas and how fast we can convert that idea. I mean, you know this, all that particular change that is happening, smart grid implementation, grid independent to net energy building. These are all 20 technologies. I mean, I think maybe 100 of you who are skilled can develop this grid independent net energy building system, which can be put in every smart city in terms of using all the waste, fuel waste from the individual houses, the solar, the using of all the energy efficient system, fuel cells, all, I mean, gray water. I don't know, I'm sure all of you are knowing this, and that can really make that every consumer become a prosumer. That means he will consume and he will produce and consume, so that you don't have to have the transmission, distribution, and huge infrastructure challenges. And this production, what you're doing, can be used as an electricity for e-mobility or whatever that you want to do it to run your own cars is something which you're doing it. I'm also looking at hybrid. I'm looking at new developments in my own field. That's my kind of a passion. That is my vision. Hydrogen as the most potent source of alternate energy. And I'm being now the chairman of the methanol committee. Government of India wants me to build a hydrogen scenario, because it is clear that lithium, cobalt, which is a part of the lithium-ion battery, is not going to be available in this country. And therefore, we are planning to change. And this dialogue is happening at the Government of India level, at PMO level, at NITI Aayog level. And I'm talking about this fuel cell, which I showed you earlier, what we offered it to the government when our Honorable President presented this, and hydrogen as a fuel to a water electrolysis. So future is uncertain, my dear friends, and that's a good news. Don't be worried about it. Future is going to be uncertain, and that's good news to you, but you should be up to it. Your skills will have to be changed on a dynamic basis. What you know today is not good enough to be tomorrow. So your urge, your curiosity, your questioning should be continuous, because Moore's law is at its best. And technological megatrends have created conditions ripe for this revolution in advanced manufacturing, bioengineering, computer science, data science. So whether it's going to be developing a product for a cold storage, or you are developing a e-mobility solution, or you are developing something as a health product, you have to apply a criteria. Are you going to use ABCD of this into your design and development of this? So we need large number of entrepreneurs who will innovate technology and enterprise models. Some of them may be good, high capability innovation. They may be low on brand, which are inventors, and somebody who can create a next unicorn where you have got a high capability to innovate and also high capability to focus on brand and consumer trust. That's what Amazon's and everybody has done. You can be on the fourth kind of a brand, which is white goods, and you can see on the bottom, if you don't have capability to innovate, and I'm sure at least after my this 60 minutes, you at least now understand what is innovation, what is innovator, what is intuition, and what is the way that we need to do. If you are in the lower side, either you are a short-term success, it may win, it may hit, but it's going to be for a short time, it will not going to be sustainable, or you will remain laggard and your development will go out of the road. So please, I've been motivated by many spiritual work, many books that I've written. Reading this Think Fast, Think Slow is an essential part of intuition. So you must also build your intuition and develop a process of intuition by two brains working, like what Einstein said, intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. Today we have created a society and education system that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. I hope we will be able to rekindle this gift. So you need to be today handling every of your system will be complex and therefore unpredictable. So simply being a problem solver or an implementer will not do. You need to be an integrator in your development, and this is the thing. So in conclusion, between the business as usual, business but usual debate, the reality will be somewhere. So entrepreneurs and innovators will dictate the future growth and this system. So we are entering into a huge period of uncertainty. COVID-19 has further proven the aspect more than anything else. Climate change is real and we are on a tipping point, and there are new wave technologies so disruptive that it can make us human beings irrelevant if we are not up to it. We need to be globally connected and collaborate with them while solving our immediate problems. Bring our age-old wisdom. I'm talking about the wisdom of sages, where we could do so many things when we didn't have any one of the tools that are available today in developing new solutions in this thing. So today, towards a greener S&T, R&D expenditure, HR policies, education system, IPR regimes, this is for the policymakers like our Hiranmay and Nagarajan, labor reforms, public procurement. So we need to be thinking a lot of global, that means global, local, vocal on local is what is important. 100 years, we will have all this colonizing outer space, synthetic biology, artificial body parts, gene editing, cyborg. So there are huge things, and my dear friends, in your active life, you're all young, you will see these enormous challenges, enormous transformations, enormous new things which are coming up, which even we could not fathom sitting in 2020 today, but you will be excited. You need to be part of it and not followers. So let wisdom prevail. As Atharva Veda said, we must learn to happily progress together or miserably perish together. Man can live individually, but can survive collectively. And that's the spirit of collaboration. So that's all. I leave it to you. I'm sorry, Hiranmay, for taking more time than what is required, but I'm willing now because I have got time till 7 o'clock for any Q&A if people are not tired from this boring talk, I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonde. I mean, it was an absolutely thrilling journey and packed with information, analysis, and data. Many people have started demanding whether the presentation is publicly available. I have put a comment in the comment box that the session was made live to hundreds of people. I see people participating and commenting from Middle East, from South Africa and others. Probably some people watched in the Facebook. So the time that you spent is not only spent, it is invested, Dr. Sonde. And the ideas that you gave are very path-breaking. I can quote one comment from the Facebook post which can summarize the feedback of the session. One gentleman says that you not only work in the power sector, you are not only a powerful policymaker, your speech is powerful. You are a resource of power reservoir. So I think that, all these powers are combined together, a triple P Sondeji, So you speak with power, you work in a power, and you are a powerful person in the policy and technology. So that's what probably is a beautiful feedback that I saw from some participant, and this is wonderful. And particularly when I think when we talk about Atmanirbhar and all, you showed us the path. जब हमारे पास कुछ था नहीं 1970s में 80s में जो आपने बताया लंदन क्लब्स की कंट्री बनी थी तब हमने ये चीज बनाई और आप उस चीज की हिस्सा थे जो न्यूक्लियर पावर की बात कर रहे हैं और आज आप जो एक्साइटेशन जिस एनर्जी और ऊर्जा के साथ आप कह रहे हैं कि आज की युवा और आज की जो स्रोत है हम क्या कुछ नहीं कर सकते हैं तो आपने एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात कहा बिफोर आई आस्क नागार्जुन सर टू शेयर हिज ऑब्जर्वेशन बेस्ड ऑन द टॉक 3-4 चीज जो मुझे बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा और पूरे ऑडियंस की कमेंट्स को देखते हुए एक तो आपने कहा कि जो दुनिया की एवरेज आईक्यू है अगर उसको भी गिन लो तो हमारे पास इतने पंडित लोग हैं जितना अमेरिका की पॉपुलेशन नहीं है तो कहीं ना कहीं थ्योरेटिकली तो हम बाप हैं अब उस चीज को किस तरीके से हाउ कैन वी लिवरेज दैट तो मैथमेटिकली वी आर सुपर पावर बट फिर वो मैथमेटिक्स को आपने जो कहा ना कि साइंस को टेक्नोलॉजी को प्रोडक्ट को होते हुए बिजनेस मॉडल से वैल्यू तक ले जाना है तो कहीं ना कहीं वो थ्योरेटिकल स्ट्रेंथ को प्रैक्टिकल स्ट्रेंथ में कन्वर्ट करना है और दूसरी बात आपने कही आपने जो 2000 साल की इकोनॉमिक कंट्रीब्यूशन की ग्राफ दिखाया कि हम इतना बड़ा चंक कंट्रीब्यूट करते थे जब हमारे पास जो भी उस टाइम के सिस्टम था और आज कहीं ना कहीं वो हिस्सा जो है ना छोटा हो गया है आज सुबह ही मैंने एक वीडियो हमारी एक ग्रुप है स्टूडेंट स्टार्टअप इनोवेशन पॉलिसी की सब यूनिवर्सिटीज उसमें शेयर किया द वीडियो समराइजेस the IP filing of top 20 countries in last 30 years. How China moved from the 20th position to the first position. तो कितना स्पीडली दे आउटलाइड एवरी कंट्री. जापान यूज्ड टू बी डोमिनेट फॉर 10 years. अभी वो कहीं नहीं आते. यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स टुक कंपटीशन इन लास्ट 10 years, बट उसको भी आउटलाइ किया. तो कहीं ना कहीं ये जो पॉलिसी जो नागराजन सर बार बार वो कहते हैं, he runs in the government, right? So government का जैसे आपने ये गोल्डन ट्रायंगल बताया, तो आज लकीली ये तीनों जगह पे है. हमारे जैसे लोग एकेडमिक से आते हैं, आपके जैसे लोग इंडस्ट्री से आते हैं, और नागार्जुन सर जैसे लोग गवर्नमेंट से आते हैं. तो ये जो 3 एंगल है कहीं ना कहीं, और आज यहाँ पे जो 60 यूनिवर्सिटी के लोग आपको सुन रहे हैं, ये कहीं ना कहीं परफेक्ट एपिटमाइज करता है. So Nagarajan sir can implement things at a scale in a government which nobody can do. You are a person who bring on technology onto the country when we need that. And probably we represent academics who actually do research in the applied or in the fundamental sciences to discover the next work. और ये तीनों संगम करने की जो मंच है ना, वो कहीं ना कहीं मिसिंग होती है. और ये आई हब बनाया इसलिए था सर. ये जो स्टूडेंट स्टार्टअप एंड इनोवेशन हब बनाया ना, गुजरात में 3,500 कॉलेज हैं, हमारे पास 15 लाख बच्चे हैं, और 80 यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं. हर फील्ड में नानो टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर मोलिकुलर साइंस तक आपको पीएचडी मिल जाएंगे. गुजरात सबसे ज्यादा ऑर्गेनाइज इंडस्ट्री क्लस्टर्स भी यहाँ पे हैं, एमएसएमई का कंट्रीब्यूशन ज्यादा है. हमारे पास एक प्राग्मेटिक गवर्नमेंट और स्ट्रॉन्ग एंड अजाइल ब्यूरोक्रेसी भी है. तो इन तीनों को जोड़ के किस तरीके से परिवर्तन को कर सकते हैं, इसका जो पायलट है ना सर, वो iHub है. तो हम लोग वो करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो आप कह सकते हो कि ये वो फिशन रिएक्टर है जिसमें ये तीनों चीज को जोड़ रहे हैं. So we have people like Nagarajan ji who sits in the board, who brings in that kind of scalability factor from the government. Then people like you, whom we rope in, you bring in ideas and how to take it and the policy side. And then there are young chap like us who have little advantage of not having beard, but then having little advantage of coming late to the world, and then you get opportunity to learn from experience from all of you. तो ये तीनों का संगम करके हम लोग ये सरस्वती लक्ष्मी की जुगाड़ में इनोवेशन प्रोसेस में लगे हैं. तो कहीं ना कहीं ये हमारी कोशिश है. और पिछले 4-5 साल से हमने जब ये स्टूडेंट स्टार्टअप पॉलिसी बनाया, तो कई डजन्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स ने ग्रेजुएशन से पहले अपने टेक्नोलॉजी को मार्केट पे ले आए. अब ये बहुत न्यू चीज है, ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात हमारे पास रहा. पहले हम कहते थे बच्चे अच्छे पढ़ लें, फिर हम बोलते थे बच्चे अच्छे रिसर्च कर ले, फिर हम कहते थे कि बच्चे अच्छे प्रोडक्ट बना लें, अब बच्चे अच्छे एंटरप्रेन्योर बनने लगे. तो कहीं ना कहीं आपने जो TRL की बात कही, टेक्नोलॉजी रेडीनेस की बात कही, आपने जो पाइथागोरस की वैल्यू आपने कहा कि A+B कहाँ लगाओगे, तो हम यहाँ लगाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So I think it was a really powerful talk from a powerful person for powerful ideas. A lot of people have demanded your video. It's publicly available on Facebook. I would now request Nagarajan sir to share his observations.
Thank you, Hiranmay.
Yes, Hiranmay, I think we are very thankful to sir for his inspiring session. बहुत सारी चीजें मतलब काफी एनलाइटनिंग रही, स्पेशली जो आर्ट्स को एक स्टेम में एक जगह दिया है. बिकॉज I always try to say this, because ultimately every human endeavor is for the human values, and arts के बिना human values technology में जुड़ नहीं सकता है. The technology can be an enabler, but the value, the purpose, the ultimate aim, goal is humanity, and arts bring that into the मैट्रिक्स. तो वो एक चीज से आपने बहुत शुरू किया है. तो कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि आपने जो किया है उसी का जो सार है, हम दोनों को भी ड्राइव करता है, और बहुत सारे जो मेंटर्स है उनको भी ड्राइव करता है. और दूसरा जो आपने इंडस्ट्री एकेडमी की बात की, उसमें गवर्नमेंट को भी डाल दीजिए. और जो सैंडबॉक्स जो क्रिएट होगा, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट ब्रिंग्स स्केल एंड गवर्नमेंट सेट्स द पॉलिसी, तो वो जो सैंडबॉक्स है उसी का एक मॉडल हम iHub में भी ट्राई कर रहे हैं. बिकॉज वी अंडरस्टूड दैट इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी एंड क्रॉस डोमेन जो है वो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है.
yes.
उसमें आपने सही तरीके से वो बताया है कि टाइटेनियम जो है, it was invented in the airline industry, then it was used for creating a blade foot, so it has transformed people's lives. So cross application of jo technology hota, even internet was invented for defense purpose. Today it is the biggest enabler and change maker in this society. So cross application is very important, and less for more जो है, जो golden quadrant हम बोल सकते हैं. So everywhere all the important and good things end up in that quadrant only. So we should try for that golden quadrant. ये सब बहुत ही अच्छी बात है, and लोगों की comment भी इतने अच्छे आ रहे हैं. They have been very attentive. That shows the kind of value that you are bringing to this session, and it has been wonderful. Another session that has been duly, invested in the creation of innovative culture in this Gujarat student startup and innovation ecosystem. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We look forward to getting your continuous guidance and support in various forums and initiatives.